Footy's back. Ba-da-da, ba-ba, ba-da-da, ba-ba, ba-ba-ba-ba. Welcome to Footy Unfilterated. Not only is Footy back, but so are the Bombers. I'm your host, James Clements. With me on the other side of this here screen is the happiest man in all of Melbourne right now. He's got the Bombers flag, the Bombers top, the Bombers coffee mug. Brad Scott's going to be the next premiership coach at Essendon. I mean, he's the most stoked man in Melbourne. It's Jez. Jez, what's going on?
Jim, I've just finished my letter to Brad Scott asking him to adopt me. How good is it? How good is it? We're back. We're back. We are back. Back. Look, see this? It's ours. Woo!
Nearly going a full calendar year without a win, and then your long national nightmare is over. So that's
what a way it was over too.
It was pretty good. So look, Gather Round's done. Footy is fully back to the point where we've now got Sydney and GWS going, wait a minute, why are we playing this Friday? Which is, footy is so back. It's never been more back. I love it. So we're going to
love it.
Wrap up Gather Round today. We'll do our weekly awards, obviously, as per usual. We've got some yeah-nahs, and we've got around 6 picks and previews, etc. It's, as per usual, we're going to have a lot of fun stuff in there. So, lots to cover. Without further ado, let's get into it. It's Footy without the bull. It's Footy Unfilterated. Let's go.
This is not our fault. We seem happy just to wait. Coffin now fill up our fate. Gotta sack that up one more. More than dust and cobwebs.
Oh, righto, Jez. Before we do anything, of course, our mates at the Ramshackle Army are playing Scarfighter 2 at the Bendigo Hotel on May 9. I'll see you there wandering in after Deftones, which will be pretty good.
I'll be there at some point.
But first of all, Jez, I want to know, what are they paying you?
Well, apparently not enough to have a thick skin. So
apparently. That's been the biggest story the last couple of days post-Gather Round is that Zach Butters gives away a 50 and gets reported for saying something that we're not entirely sure if the umpire heard correctly, and suddenly it doesn't get picked up by the umpire's microphone, and here we are. What a world we live in. So this is the cool thing about doing our show on a Tuesday night each week is we have Zeets down at the actual tribunal all afternoon, just going, I don't know what's going on. This is what they're saying now. So I guess it's been upheld and he's now been fined $1,500 and everyone's like, oh, well,
that's a big story for a $1,500 fine.
I think someone pointed out it cost $10,000 to go to the tribunal. So,
I wonder if he lost 4 demerit points as well, because that sounds like a speeding fine.
That's basically what you get around Brunswick up there. So that's the big one. But obviously, secondly, what did you think of Gather Round, Jez? So having been there, my favourite sport now, not going this year, my favourite sport is disgruntled media talking about how bad actually Gather Round is. That's a fun one. I've enjoyed that. Written by people who aren't at Gather Round seems like a very awesome take, and definitely not one to get people enraged for no reason.
There's a bit of that creeping into the broadcast as well. I noticed when watching the Mighty Bombers do their thing, there's a lot of comments about how the crowd's not really into it. Oh, but it's a neutral crowd. What did you expect from Essendon and Melbourne playing in Adelaide, you idiots? It's... They can't have a showdown on every game. Surely they understand that this isn't about having the crowd atmosphere you're going to have at a Adelaide, Port Adelaide, or even a Carlton, Collingwood at the MCG. It's about a celebration of football and fans from all over the place coming together to watch football.
I want to hit on that more in Nars, but it has been, I want to say I've seen at least 3 different outlets doesn't it just seem like Gather Round's not even just for footy fans anymore? You're not there. Shut up.
Pretty much.
What are you judging this on? What you've seen on the internet? Shut up, idiot. Yeah. Anyway, the other sort of big thing to come out of this is that the AFL was like, Yeah, so round 0, what we're going to do is probably try to have all 18 teams play. And everyone's like, oh, so like round 1. Good. And then they're like, oh, well, we might do it up north. And then it took, I think, the Premier of South Australia, Peter Malinauskas, to go, I don't know if that sounds like a good idea, because then you've got, St Kilda Freo playing to 15 people at Engie, which is a very good point.
Correct.
And one is, it's probably been borne out by pre-round zeros in the past. So I don't know, maybe just start off with round 1 or just come up with a better idea, you big dummies. I think it's also hamstrung this next year, isn't it? Because you've got the G hosting the Centennial Test. So
yes, so they're not going to be able to play a game. Well, they probably could at Marvel, but you might as well play it at Engie.
I'm just saying, let's kick it all off with regional round. Very simple. Very
Footy Unfilterated solution.
Love that. Right. So I guess the big sort of news is, like, don't say mean things to the umpires who also have jobs at sports betting companies. Can't say anything mean about that or to them. Nothing sus here. Nothing sus here. But I think the big obviously Gather Round, it was really fun sort of watching the entire thing again from back over here, but also being in Sydney, because I was there for 2 days over the weekend. And like that sort of weird, like in Melbourne, you sort of watch a bunch of the footy over the weekend. You sort of get a vibe for the entire thing across it. I'm watching through Fox Footy. And then instead, for a couple of days, I'm watching these games in Sydney pubs. And again, it's Sydney. And so you're like, oh, we better find the second telly, because they're still playing league on, the big TV. So you're going to find the next one.
They
but it was
played
all
replays of league before they played AFL in some Sydney pubs.
At one point, I was watching Essendon and Melbourne. We missed the third quarter because the TV just cut out of AFL. Scotty, it was just gone. It's like, what the hell, man? We're watching it on my phone at one point. It was just ridiculous. But
crazy.
Still, it was a very sort of fun way of there's zero interest in Sydney, at least the pubs that I was in, but I was in just some rando pubs that I wandered into. I should have actually gone. Here's the thing. I should have gone to more pubs to get more of a sort of,
I'll be honest, Jim. I'm a little bit disappointed that you didn't. I thought more of you than that, but
I did go to a lot of pubs.
Well,
it was a fair whack. But it was still very cool watching it, because you get these smatterings of footy fans are watching, and obviously the Swans didn't play until later that afternoon, and by that time I was at the airport. So I sort of missed at least getting a bit of a vibe for. You could see the Swans preparations were there. There was lots of Swans-ish pubs
stuff
about and getting ready. So it would have been kind of neat to stick around, but I had to come home at some point. So here we are. Otherwise, and I think injuries were the big sort of news in the last 2 days as well. It's been a litany of injuries. You got Dev Robertson, the ACL for Dev Robertson. That sucks. He's the big rig. Had been playing really, really well for the Eagles. He's got a chance. He gets to strut his stuff outside of Brisbane, and boom, does the ACL. That sucks. Noah Anderson had, I don't know if he and Joel Embiid are the same person, but they both had appendectomies out of absolutely nowhere. So I don't know if he's had a gut ache for the last couple of weeks, which is why he's had a slow start to the year, but geez.
Would make sense. Yeah.
That's no good.
He's definitely not looked right the last couple. Definitely Saturday he wasn't great. So I guess it could be. Sucks.
Aaron Norton hurt his hand. We don't have too much of a follow-up yet on that one, but didn't look great. I mean, Cripper actually hurt his hand a little bit too, and was sort of it was already strapped, so that was a bit of a strange one. They haven't heard, hide nor hear about that either. But Ed Richards came back, actually played as well. So we saw last week, and you're like, oh, he's done for at least a little bit. No, they went, he's fine. And then he got hurt
and then
again.
He wasn't.
So
maybe brought him back a little bit early.
Maybe. Still, that sucks for Ed Richards. Marbio came off with a hammy. He's out for at least 4 to 6 weeks. Ouch. He was straight onto the back bench as well, wasn't he? That was a real quick one.
Yep.
Poor Marbio. Zorko's out 2 to 3 weeks with a calf.
Yeah, it's going to get harder to come back from the older you get. The old man's injury. Also,
maybe on report for the whack to Paul Curtis's family jewels. I don't know.
He never ceases to amaze you with the stuff he will do. Like you
Dane's
gotta,
Walker.
you either love him or you hate him. You want him on your team. Maybe not in the change room. You probably want him to just shut up and go home early. But you know, those kind of serial pests you love to have on your team, because if they're not, you absolutely hate them. But I like Dane Zorko. I can see he'd be an absolute, probably been punched a lot by teammates in the past. So
With a big grin on his face as he's being held up against the locker, that kind of vibe. Yeah.
yeah.
Connor Buderic's out 2 to 3 weeks as well. It looks like
that's going to hurt for the Dogs.
sucks. They just can't avoid this injury bug.
Yeah.
And you've got Lukosius out 4 to 6 weeks as well. Like with a strange, it was like was it a hammy or something that had sort of been a problem for him coming into the season, and it's like sort of flared up, and they're like, all right, he's going to take 2 months off.
I think he's had back problems.
That's what it was. Back.
So I think the hammy back, all that sort of stuff is kind of related for him, and he just hasn't had he looked awesome at the Gold Coast in his last year, and then he buggered off to Port Adelaide, and he just hasn't had a run at it. So it'd be good to see. He's clearly got talent, but he might be one of those ones that we're talking about in years to come that say, I wonder what he could have been like if he didn't get injured.
Yeah.
Sad.
As a medical doctor, the backbone's connected to the ham bone.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
And yeah, it tracks. We had a couple of tough concussions for the Giants as well. Aaron Cadman kicked 3 goals in the first quarter and copped a heavy knock. He kicked another goal in the game, but then, copped a big whack. The worst one was Caniglio. He got absolutely yammed up, and basically what a knee to the face. And you're like, that hurt. Oh, so
yeah, not great.
Both done for a little bit. At least the Blues will get a couple of guys back this week, though, from concussion, which is kind of nice. And Steel side bottoms out this week as well with a hip pointer. So I'll take that. Noted Carlton killer, Steel side bottom. Right. Let's talk about some of these games. Gather round. Adelaide beat the Blues. Who was surprised there? I don't know. But the big thing was 114 to 86. The Blues didn't get completely obliterated. But mostly it was because they got off to a hugely awesome start and then got killed in the second quarter. So they didn't wait till the second half to let us all down. It was already over by halftime. You're like, oh, well, that'll do, pig. That'll do. And the biggest thing I took away from Rochelle was amazing. Tex Walker was absolutely awesome and unstoppable for the first couple of quarters. The Crows, though, as the Blues were sort of having their way with them, again, in the exact same way the Blues are always going to have their way with them, is like, hey, scoring from stoppages and getting the ball, and oh, look at that, Sam Walsh is unstoppable, and so is Cripps. And then Voss pulls the master coaching stroke of putting Cripps to the bench at the start of the second quarter, where they get absolutely steamrolled with a little bit of a help from the umpires, but still. You sort of have this moment of like the Crows' second quarter was absolutely amazing. They just obliterated Carlton. And then the rest of the game was a bit, like it was a little bit cue in the rack, and then the Blues had like a little bit of a chance to fight back, and then it all fell short with the, was it the throw and then the missed free kick the other way for Carlton? And look, oh man, it got ugly on the internet.
It kind of the game just ground to a halt at halftime. Like the weather was horrible. Like I would have probably just said, "No, my hammy's hurt," and stayed in if that was me. But it's like they all looked out there and went, "Oh, that's what's that stuff? Oh, it's right. No, we don't. That's not my contract. No." But it was really odd. Both teams kind of stopped and they just sort of did what they had to get through. And it wasn't really the spectacle you would hope for Gather Round, was it?
Well, the first quarter was absolutely awesome, right?
It was amazing.
Just back and forth. You're like, hell yeah, this rocks.
And then the second quarter was the same because you knew it was going to come. Yeah. And
then, I mean, look, the umpiring, I'm never going to get too bent out of shape about the umpiring, but the throw in front of goal was pretty amazing.
It's pretty ordinary.
And then I think getting the arc was then used on the shin to, was it Newman's? Yeah, the handball to Newman's shin. So now we're using arc on out of bounds inside the 50. And
why do we need umpires? Let's
don't
just
know.
let the Arc do it.
It was crazy. So strange game.
Yeah.
Blues looked all right for a minute. Rochelle, though, just not being able to stop him or stymie him in any way, shape, or form. It was like 46-39 after the first quarter. It was awesome. And then, yeah, the Crows kicked 6 goals in the second quarter to 1 and the game was over. So
The Crows are still not back. Like they've still got a fair bit to go, but I think it's a win they probably needed and should have had.
Yep. Collingwood Freo was
Yuck.
the first quarter score in Adelaide Carlton was more than this entire game. So as I said, Adelaide 39, Carlton 46 in the first quarter of Thursday night.
Garbage.
Friday's entire game was 39-45 to the Dockers. And this was a rough watch. I watched the second half in a pub in Sydney, having gotten out of the Opera House, having watched Tism, going, I need to find somewhere to watch the footy. And then I went, I didn't have to really rush.
I actually fell asleep on the couch at halftime and didn't even know the result till I woke up in the morning. It was that bad. I had zero. I couldn't tell you what happened. The only thing, the biggest thing I noticed from this game is that Bo McCreary's cut his hair.
Oh.
He now no longer has the long, lovely locks that he rolls up into the man bun. That was my big takeaway from this game. That's how bad it was.
DeGoey also left with a concussion as well, didn't he? So he's out for the Blues game too. So bit going on there. But the story here was like the sort of topsy-turvy. There you go, topsy-turvy.
I think you were tipsy-turvy trying to watch it, but it's topsy-turvy.
It's pretty fun. Actually, a couple of the old blokes in that pub while they're watching, they were standing there in front of the TV and giving it the old Sydney wobble there.
Wobble.
I love that. But this was an amazing comeback from Freo because they were down in the fourth quarter until the giant missed goal and then the go-ahead goal from Johnson. It was huge, and then the Pies just couldn't peg it back at the very end. And, to kick 2 goals out of a game that had, 12 total in the very last few minutes was awesome by Freo. And, it felt like the sort of worm turning a little bit on the Pies, winning all these close games. But I just want you to remember this game when any time someone says, there's too much scoring now in footy, it's like basketball. You show them this game and go, you want that?
Is this what you want? Yeah. No, thanks.
But huge win for Freo. Good on them because, especially in a neutral venue, I think that's to get a win over Collingwood where you don't have to play the Pies at the G. Freo have got a win. Pretty good about that one, I reckon. Right? Like it's actually come away with it. They're now 4-1, and it sort of sends Collingwood down to 2 and 3. That was huge. But
is that what you would call an 8-point game, Jim?
Oh, I love a good 8-point game.
How good's an 8-point game? But it's the win they needed to have. They had to start winning these scrappy games against teams that, when it gets to this point, they would normally roll over and show their belly to. So, I think it's really good. And it's going to be a very important win for them as the season goes. So, looking good, Freo.
Yep. Then we move to the Barossa for North Melbourne, Brisbane. Awesome game. Valiant from the Roos. Valiant. I love a good Valiant loss. At 92-66, the Roos were sort of in this for a lot of it. And the Lions, I don't know, just this is the premiership metal, isn't it? Where it's just they were that good and that composed, I guess, throughout the game that they sort of just pulled away. And the Roos led at the half, and you sort of never really stressed too much about Brisbane, and this is kind of what they do. 5 goals in the third quarter, off they go, take the lead, never look back, and I mean
they did the same thing to St Kilda a few weeks ago, where they just sort of just cruised along but somewhere between first and second gear, and then when it mattered, they just put the foot down and said, "Nah, see yous."
They were there, the Roos were right there with them for the vast majority, that second half. It never blew out, but then you never felt like the Lions were completely, I don't know, panicky or anything, and they sort of just eked it out with those last couple of goals. It was the Rayner one, which was really sort of the settler, wasn't it? And then I think Bailey had the one that sort of clinched it all. But it was a pretty wild one. But my favorite thing, I think, from this one was the combination of the jerseys.
Oh,
Those North
dream
jerseys,
jersey matchup.
and then you got the Lions, which is like the old Fitzroy sort of, the orange, blue, and gold. Loved it. Like the
How
Roos
good
one
was
kind
it?
of feels like I feel like they've got better alternates, but that was still a pretty good one. I think you posted the all the alternate jerseys for the
Yeah.
weekend, and I did love that Roos one, so that was awesome.
Yeah.
Happy
That
with
was my favourite of the weekend. I think a few comments on there that really enjoyed some of the other jerseys. The West Coast Eagles one, which we'll get to, that was pretty sick. The old throwback.
Yep.
But yeah, I something about a black on black with that blue through it. So it gave me that NFL feel with the Lions and the Panthers and that sort of thing when they have their black alternates, which look really cool against a red and yellow team. If you think of the Lions against KC, for example, that'd be a sick matchup when they've got their black and blue ones. So yeah, it was awesome matchup. Love it.
Yep. It was a very cool one. I like it. It's just give me some really big standout primary colours and we're laughing.
And I love that old Fitzroy jersey. That's one of my favourites. So
yeah, I don't know if it's got a bad matchup either, right? Like it always looks awesome. Like I think I've got a feeling that's the one that they probably wore against Collingwood 2 years ago in the grand final. That they might have lost, but it was still an amazing jersey matchup. Anyway, right. Lockie Neal was also really good in that game, so good on him. Back to Adelaide Oval. Pretty close game, this one. And then it wasn't. Essendon 113, the Melbourne Demons 68. Take it away, yes!
Here we have the Gather Round Cup, undefeated at Gather Round. So you can see it's all personalised, just in case you can't see there. Yep. So this game was on, and I was actually up in Skipton outside of Ballarat, for those of you who don't know, watching my son play in their first game of the year. And they were also going very, very well, beating the reigning premiers by quite a bit. And I'm following along on my phone, and I'm like, hang on a minute, we're ahead. Quarter time, we're ahead, and watch a bit more, get to halftime. Here we go. Melbourne have come. They've turned up finally. Anyway, so I got into the game. As country footy provides a bit of entertainment with some scraps and whatnot, and a bit of banter from over the fence. So got involved in that, as it'd be rude not to. And I had a look at my phone, and we're up by 40 points, and it's the fourth quarter. And I started walking around. My son's team's won. They beat the fan. They're Bombers. It was the best. It was so good. I was just walking on air. So I had to get up early the next day and watch the whole thing. So normally when I miss a game, Jim, I'll watch the mini and read up on it. But this one, I'm watching the whole thing. I nearly watched it twice. I was that excited. So, but I think the biggest takeaway from this is that it was the kids again. It wasn't just the old guys. Brad Scott actually made some changes that swung the game. He put in Peter Wright in the ruck against, and you know my feelings on Peter Wright, but putting him in the ruck against Max Gawn with that extra height to compete in the bounce it was brilliant. I wouldn't say it was absolute genius, but he's got one right there. And that allowed them to put Blackiston down back, and that extra tall down back. The way he's been attacking the footy since we picked him up last year, it was too much for Melbourne's makeshift forward line, who are looking more and more out of form as the weeks go on. So, but the young kids again were great. Archie Roberts, what a star, 42 disposals. Jacob Farrow was the rising star for this week, which is, I've nominated him in previous weeks as a superstar already, and I'm sticking to my guns, Jim. Everything's coming up Essendon this week. So, but yeah, it was really good. Kako, I thought the role that Andy McGrath did on Cozzy Pickett, which he was still one of their best, but he didn't have the influence that he has had in their wins. And what I did notice, and they did make mention of it on the commentary, was that Kako was in there alongside them, and you could see he was starting to do some of the things that Cozzy Pickett does, which is awesome. That's what you want from your first and second year players, to be able to pick things up from the best in the league. And I've been really impressed with Kako. Caddy again, he's chaos, and I love it. So Archie May kicked a couple of goals. I don't know. I couldn't pick anyone out. Even Ben Mackay was good. I actually had to work for Spud of the Week this week. So, yeah, as you can tell, Jim, I was pretty happy with the result.
I have never been more angry as well because I'm like, where was this effort from the Demons 2 weeks ago when they just kicked the absolute bejesus out of the Blues? I was just like, come on, man. Are you serious? Like, they completely capitulated. They got no help. Like, Gorn and Cozzy sort of still doing their stuff, but, like, it was just that lack of everything else from everybody else. And the Bombers, like, there was a moment, there was, like, a couple of just, I don't know, the Demons, I think, had got a couple of goals in the second quarter.
Yeah.
And I think Archer May kicked a goal halfway through about the second. And like the way that it sort of actually occurred was just such a really good counterpunch. You're like, oh, I didn't expect that. And I don't think Melbourne expected that. And it felt 100% like a case of like looking forward to the week after going, yeah, we're good for Essendon. Yeah, a bit fart smelly, I think, on Demons.
The way the Bombers celebrated as well, they looked different. They actually looked like they were enjoying themselves. Like Zach Merritt, goal of the year, that was unreal. But the way he got up and celebrated after was what makes you think, hang on, something's changed, and maybe there is a little bit of hope for the future coming up. So I was pleasantly surprised. I think it's right that we haven't actually lost at Gather Round, so I'm very keen for it to continue and continue to play Melbourne at Gather Round while we definitely haven't lost to Melbourne, and I'm pretty sure, and I'm probably wrong, but I could look it up, but I'm just going to roll with it. We haven't lost at Gather Round. Prove it. Come at me.
That's a really good question. I was at a Port Essendon game on two Gather Rounds ago on the Friday, I want to say. That was pretty crazy and very, very, very fun. I can't actually remember who won that though. So there you go. Anyway, that was a really, really fun game. Go the Bombers, I guess. 323 days, 17 rounds of football. And they end a losing streak. You don't snap a losing streak. You end a losing streak. Just saying. That's one for the journalists out there.
We started a winning streak.
Speaking of winning streaks, Sydney are never going to lose again. 100,
Wow.
Gold Coast 58. The Suns looked not great.
Yes.
Ben King, like, I don't know, they played this game on Norwood, and we sort of hit on this last week, right? Like previewing games for at Norwood, it's like, all right, what does this mean? It means an absolute just plethora of contested footy and a lot of just in the guts, scramble. The ball pops clear. And you're sort of just hoping one of your dudes is on the end of it a lot of the time. That's exactly what this game sort of felt like. And I don't know, like the Swans just absolutely outmuscled the Suns. As I'm watching this, like, I don't know, between Amadi Party and Charlie Curnow, this could have been an absolute whipping. Instead, it was merely a belting. So 32 points in the end, 14-16 the Swans kicked to 9-14 for the Suns. The win does hit a bit weird. It looked a bit scrappy there, but I mean, chaos game. Heaney was absolutely off his head, and the Suns just never had the space or the time really to do much. And you sort of felt like it should be the sort of Matt Rowell took Miller game, and they did get plenty of the field, but they just didn't control the contest. That was what Sydney did. So, yeah, just too many good dudes on the Swans, and they will never lose again. Simple as that, Jess.
Can't argue with that.
Best team I've ever seen.
I think Gold Coast, I don't know what's going on there, but even Ben King, who's been pretty good in every game, he was very quiet. I think he had 2 goals, 1 from 5 disposals, which is well down on his first few weeks. The on-ballers aren't getting the clearances. The ruck isn't, they tried Mac Andrew in there and that didn't really work. So there's a few players there that are, that have started the year with big tags and seemingly have enhanced their reputation. That the last couple of weeks when the heat's been on, they haven't performed. So I think there might be mouth guards at training this week from Dimmer. So maybe a bit of an old school approach. So what happens.
I'm just saying, the 28th parallel, undefeated. This is what happens. They play in Adelaide.
Crazy.
It's below the 28th parallel. Boom. What happens? They lose. That's why I ended up picking Sydney in the end last week.
They need to play Essendon or Carlton in Melbourne.
Well, I think they're done in Melbourne at the MCG for the season, aren't they? And I think,
Yeah, I think they've got Carlton. Well, we've actually got them this week, but it's up there. But
yep,
I think they play Carlton at Marvel, don't they? In
they've got a
June
Blues
or
game
something
out
like
here,
that.
which I'll probably rock up to in a Suns jersey. Just saying.
Yeah.
Jeez. Hawthorn 104, Dogs 64. It wasn't that close,
Wow.
and that's
No.
40 points. So this was 100% an absolute laugher by the second quarter.
Yeah.
Like,
It
because the
wasn't
Dogs
very.
kicked 4 points in the second quarter.
Yeah, they
So
struggled.
47-19, and by that point, like, the Dogs sort of made it a bit of a game, but then just another 5 goals in the fourth quarter from the Hawks just put it absolutely to bed. Because there was a minute there where it's like they pulled it back to around 20 or whatever, the Dogs, and you're like, oh, look out, here we go. But they just sort of didn't take advantage of, I don't know, a bit more run of it. No Marbiot. Mitch Lewis was massive for them. The ruck battle was an absolute demo with no Tinglish in there for the Dogs. I think the hitouts were 64 to like 17 or something like that.
I think Ned Reeves had 4 disposals, and he definitely kicked 1, but might have kicked 2 goals and had 40 hitouts. So
1
he
goal,
was just
40 hitouts, just
and from 4 disposals, that's crazy. But yeah, the Dogs couldn't get near them in the ruck, and that's going to be a problem for them until Tinglish comes back. So I expect that if it continues the way it has for the Dogs with the injuries, because I think there's Aaron Norton obviously is doubtful. They've lost Ed Richards. Treloar's still out. They've still got a couple of other guys out. Liberatore is out. I'm not sure when he's due back.
I think he's questionable to come back this week, so maybe he comes back. They're feeling a bit better. Treloar hopefully comes back in the next couple of weeks. You just don't know with him. So,
but they're really struggling to get the ball out and down forward at any kind of consistency. Like Darcy struggled because they just couldn't get the ball to him. Bont was well held on the weekend. He didn't have his influence that he has had even against us the week before when we won the last 3 quarters. He was still their best player. The young guys on Saturday were just, they took the night off almost. So hopefully for the Dogs, they can sort of battle through this and come. There's always, we said it, there was always going to be a period where things don't go their way, and it's how they respond to that in the past that has sort of defined their season. So if they can work out a way to right this current, you wouldn't call it slump, but whatever it is that they're in at the moment with their injuries and whatnot, you sort of hope that they do so they can be competitive, because at their best, they're awesome. And I would have really loved them to be at their best against Hawks, how they are at the moment, because I reckon we would have had an absolute belter, which hopefully they play again later in the year.
Because it certainly felt like at the very start, like they came out guns blazing, and then it just stopped dead, and the Hawks ran over the top of them, which is terrifying for everybody else. Because I don't know, the Hawks, when they're up and about, it's just, geez,
it's a worry.
Anyway, Geelong 122, West Coast 76. Eagles were kind of close in those nice jerseys, and then they were not. And then, I don't know, it never got really too chaotic though. So that was good, I guess, for the Eagles, but it's still a pretty big one. Like the Eagle, like it was like close the first quarter and a half, and then the Cats just piled it on and piled it on and piled it on and kept piling it on. You're like, yeah, oh well. So
pretty much. I think it was the last 7 minutes of the second quarter. They pumped on about 3 or 4 goals, might have even been 5, and it was just basically that was it, game over from there. And I think the Eagles fought back a little bit and just sort of held it to that margin. It's still a young squad, again impacted by injuries, which Dev Robertson out sucks. But if you look at a lot of their main ball winners and stuff, aside from Tim Kelly, who was pretty good against his old team, they're still so young, and they're going to have these. At least it wasn't another 130-point drubbing. So I guess there's a positive there that they managed to bounce back for at least a quarter and a half. So yeah.
So this was another one at Norwood, but it sort of didn't seem to really bother the Cats too much, which is pretty good. I mean, it was sort of
yes, the Geelong Skilled Stadium, Cardinia Park, whatever you want to call it, has a similar. It's not the same, obviously, but it has those narrow pockets as well. So I'd say that if anyone was going to play well there, it's going to be them. So out of any team, aside from obviously Norwood, the Cats would probably enjoy that type and basically being at a wind tunnel out in the middle of nowhere like their home ground is, they probably would have felt a little bit at home out at Norwood rather than at Adelaide Oval where there's a crowd and city folk and all that sort of
suburban ground,
yeah.
2,000. Away you go.
You know, people talking quickly and whatnot.
And then out at the Barossa, GWS kill the Tigers 131-75. Just a smashing from the get-go. The Tigers sort of just never could kind of keep up. They got back into it in that third quarter a little bit, but just don't quite have the horses, obviously. And GWS, despite losing a couple of dudes, copped it pretty rough. They were up 52-14 after the first quarter, and you're like, oh, it's one of them. Yep, sure.
Yeah, I think they fought back to within 20, like you said, 20 points at one stage, but I don't think GWS were ever troubled.
No. Like getting Brent Daniels and all those dude like Cadman, and they just went bang bang straight away as well. So it was good for good settling win for GWS. And then finally, to wrap it all up on Gather Round, Port Adelaide finish it off and get, I don't know, sort of handled in a really strange game by these Saints, 81-67. It's wet, it's gross. It was just a real, at times it felt like an arm wrestle, and then you just this is just a mud fight, and it's just not that much of a fun game to watch at times. It was a real strange one because you're like, oh, it's pretty close, and then you're like, it never felt like Port were really going to sort of peg it all back and run over the top of them until they sort of started doing that at the end of the third quarter, and then it just sort of plateaued for the vast majority of the fourth
real
quarter.
Ordinary real quick.
And then the Saints got that Jack Silvani goal with his busted head. Jay Sauce out there in front of Joe Silvani and Steve Silvani up in the stands, kicks his first goal as a traitor. But still...
didn't pull out this one for...
Didn't. But...
Okay, I'm going to leave that one alone.
It was a settler. And good on him. Who kicks one after that, and they just sort of put the way Port fought back into it to get within a sniff, and then just not being able to get over the hump. It sort of feels like this is just Port Adelaide in a bottle, right? Like the Horn Francis goal at the end sort of gave them a little bit of a chance. They just couldn't get enough of the pill, and that was it. So, bit of a weird one. If you're a Port fan, you just sort of feel disconsolate, right? You just be like, oh man, are we good?
Yeah, and I think it's just purely St Kilda that made this a contest, because we know that when they're on, they can demolish a team, but we haven't seen it yet, and I think they're just starting to do enough to beat the teams that they probably should be smashing. And I thought Port were one of those, but they've just creeped over the line, and it wasn't a great performance by either team. I think in the notes you've wrote, loved the Port jumper. That pretty much sums it up, because that's the highlight of the game was the Port jumper. The Saints jumper was horrible. It's like somebody went out and just sort of slapped a bit of MS Paint on there and said, oh, that'll do. That looks like a cross between a Pokemon card and I don't even know what.
I can't remember if it was you or my buddy Weaves who messaged me and was like, it looks like a reverse card.
Yes.
I'm like,
absolutely.
Yes, it does. Whereas the Port jumper was beautiful. It's like, this is just, I love this. To the point where, I don't know, a bit of an Outback Takehouse. I kind of think what we should be doing for Gather Round or one of these other special rounds is either everyone's doing a throwback jersey. I think throwback week is an absolute must for the AFL. Yeah. But the other one is for something like Gather Round, perhaps each team is doing the exact sort of same thing as the Port Adelaide jumper that they were wearing, right? Like the V straight down the front. But obviously you got clash jumpers, so maybe Carlton's white with the navy blue V, and then Adelaide is, black with the red and yellow V. Have all the same jumpers for Gather Round, but just in the different sort of colorways. I think this could be a brilliant idea I just came up with.
So when I posted on the socials the jumper, I think it was 9 jumpers on there. The Essendon one, there was a lot of comments about, the Essendon's one red. When I actually saw them with the red shorts, I was like, I actually like it. Like
Yeah.
I would prefer it with the full red with the stripe, and I think Richmond have got the opportunity to do the same thing. And yeah, I don't like white jumpers. I reckon they're boring. I think similar to your thoughts with grey jerseys in the NBA, they're boring. Like I'd rather see a team go with a different colour. So Carlton, for example, it's going to be a bit hard, but bring back the old M&Ms blue.
Yeah.
You know,
The bright
or
blue.
yeah, the bright blue. Bring out the Hawks. Bring back the diamond jumper,
The,
which
the
was
Saints
horrid.
in the bright yellow. I think that
Yep.
was another. Was that even another M&M's one? Maybe, but
It might have
yeah.
been the Kangaroos with the orange and white back in at some point. But yeah, love it.
So that was Gather Round.
Coffin now still up our fate.